Welcome, friends, to the Play Guitar Podcast into 2026. I'm Lee, and I'm here to help you become the guitar player that you always wanted to be. Today, we're going to be doing some of the theme for this year, which is getting better at our blues soloing, and the biggest part of that we're going to talk about today. Something I want to change for all of you. Getting your blues together. Say you don't really like blues. It's not your thing. You like country, or you like rock music, you like folk music. You've played a song that has blues in it. Blues has gotten into all the different styles of music. And, you're playing along and you get one of these kind of lines, right? Well, what do you do over that, right? What is that? Why does that work? It's breaking all the rules that I already have been thinking about. Right? But how does it work? Well, today, I'm going to be talking about something that quietly decides whether your solos, blues or otherwise, sound strong or shaky. But blues is a great testing ground for this. This is something that decides whether people hear confidence in your playing or hesitation in your playing. It's something that decides whether your lines feel like a musical statement or maybe just a group of notes that just are randomly coming out. I'm talking about strong notes. You hear that, strong notes. Oh, that's simple. I know what a strong note is. Most players hear that term. They think it's meaningless, right? Oh, yeah, I can hear when something sounds good or not. That's not what this is. When you understand what strong notes are and how to use them, everything changes. Your entire lead guitar sound changes. Your melodies change. Your blues sound changes. So we're going to get into today what strong notes really are. I've done things about this before. I'm going to repeat this. This is important. Strong notes are your chord tones. Okay, when guitar players talk about strong notes, they are always talking about chord tones or arpeggio notes. They're the same thing. Chords are all together. Arpeggios are one at a time. What does this mean? This means that the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh, if you're playing a seventh chord, those are the notes you're playing over. These notes form the identity of that chord that you're playing over. So anytime you land on them, what happens? Everyone can hear stability. They can hear direction, that you meant to do it. They hear something with purpose. The root tells your ear where home is. The third, if you hit the third over that chord, that decides the emotional color, whether it's happy or sad, major or minor. The fifth is a support, a structure note, right? It can sound smooth going into that. These are the notes and the flat seventh or the major seventh is going to take you into a whole realm of new, a little bit more complex sounds, right? It makes that chord a seventh chord now, one of many different kinds of seventh chords. And it can sound funky. It can sound dissonant. There's a lot of different things that we can do with the seventh. These are the notes that your ear is going to rest on if you're listening to chords. If you've never been trained about this, you've never had ear training or theory or any of those things, it doesn't matter. You're going to hear them. Why? Because these notes are functioning differently. They act different than the rest of the notes in the scale. So a scale has a lot of notes in it, but not all of them are the same. Not all the notes in the scale carry the same weight. The reason chord tones feel strong is that they match the chord perfectly. They fit perfectly with the harmony. We talk about harmony a whole lot. Harmony is not the scale. Harmony is directed by the chords. And if you're playing a note that's in the chord, it's going to lock in. It's not going to fight for attention. There's going to be no tension involved unless you want to do that, unless you deviate from them. Right? This is why a simple phrase that ends on a chord tone always sounds more musical than a complicated solo that ends randomly, right? It ends on a weak note. You can hear that. Listeners hear the landing point. They don't know what it is, but they can tell if the phrase feels complete or not, right? So the misunderstanding that a lot of players run into is they confuse scales with harmony. They memorize the pentatonic scale, right? They think they have the whole picture. Well, even in the minor pentatonic scale, which is mostly strong notes, that's why people like them, we have the fourth in there. That is not in the chord. In fact, if you play the fourth, it's going to give it a suspended type sound. It's going to go above the major third, right? You think you got the whole picture playing those scales, but it's just raw material. That's why it sounds aimless when you're just playing randomly. Without the strong notes, without knowing the strong notes, everything stays general, right? You float around. You can float around box one for years, decades, and never quite feel like your solos are saying anything. Another issue, avoiding chord tone practice. You might think, oh, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to figure out where the thirds are in this and the fifths and all. I'm not going to even, most of us don't even know what the names of the notes are in a chord. Take the simplest C major, right? Do you know what the other notes are in C major? I hope you do. If you listen to this, I'm sure you do. But most people don't. They know, well, it's got a C in it. And it looks like this. And if you go, well, what is, your fingers are pressing those other notes down in every chord that you play. All it is a 30 seconds of figuring out, well, what are those other notes? Let's do A7, right? So I've got my A7 here. I know it's an A because on the low string at the 5th fret, that's an A. But if I go through, I've got two. I've got an A here and an A on. I know that the E strings are the same. Well, let's see here. What is the note on the A string? That's the 7th fret. Well, if you took your time, that's an E. So we got an A and an E. Then on the D string at the 7th fret, that's an octave of the A. So we have another A. So it's actually 3 A's in this. Do we need 3 A's? No. Do we have them? Sure. So we got A, E, A. Next one, 6th fret on the G string. Well, if you took the time just to count up to those, it's a count up to that note, it's a C sharp. All right, A, E, A, C sharp. 5th fret on the B string, we know that's a tuning note, right? That's an E. So if A, E, A, C sharp, E, and then on the high E string, the A. So that's a triad. There's 3 notes in this big, huge 6-note chord. Let's get an A, an E, an A, a C sharp, an E, and an A. A, C sharp, and E. Those are the notes in an A major chord. Always, forever. Those are the 3 notes in an A major chord. If you take a minute to remember that, what is that third in there? What's that one that's on the 6th fret? That's a note that tells you that it's major. It's not minor, right? So if I played a lick and ended the lick on that major third, it's going to sound happy because that's the happy note, right? It's going to resolve to the chord. Here, let me get a loop here. You hear how that resolves. Now I'm gonna target the root. Every time I hit that A, grounded. This is the 5th. This is an E. To me, it always sounds kind of smooth, right? It's strong, but it's not supportive like the A is. Now, how about our G note? That's the flat 7th. That's the other note in this chord. Kind of funky. Bend up to it. I started on it this time and ended on the major third. I'm picking different notes to end or begin on. You think, oh gosh, that's just, I don't have time to do that. I want to learn all these scales all over the neck. Players think it's going to limit you to target these notes, but the opposite is true. When you master strong notes, everything you already know becomes clearer. That's just a fact. So let's talk about why strong notes change your sound. One of the biggest differences between a player who's unsure what they're playing and a confident one is the way they land the notes. You know that you've gone up to the top, you go for that big note, you think it's going to hit, and it's a horrible wrong note or a weak note, right? When you know there are strong notes and you're going to land on those strong notes, you know it matches the chord that's playing at the time you're playing instantly sounds intentional. You do not sound like you are guessing. It sounds like you are choosing. Even simple phrases start to feel controlled. Targeting strong notes is going to improve how you resolve every idea that you have. You could come up with a cool lick, but then you play it, you go, well, you know, it sounds cool for a while, but then it just doesn't, it's not grounded. You didn't finish it, right? You're going to shape your phrases with this idea. And how you place all of your notes inside the beat. You can pick these for you could play this on the strong note on one. You could play it early on the and of 4. Each one gives a little bit of a different emotional impact. Strong notes are emotional markers. A bend into the 3rd feels vocal, right? A slide into the 5th sounds smooth, sounds melodic. Holding the root sounds grounded. These are just different notes that are in the chord, but the different one that you pick gives a different result. These notes pull the listener in because they connect directly to the chord underneath, the one that you're playing over. This is why many classic blues players play so few notes, but they still sound very powerful. They're not trying to impress you with all the notes that they can play. They're trying to communicate something that's simple and clear. So most listeners, they may not know music theory, they haven't had any ear training, but they can feel whether your notes make sense. When you hit strong notes, your playing suddenly feels more professional. Even if nothing else changes, you gain authority by using this. Your sound becomes identifiable instead of random and scattered. A player who knows how to target strong notes will always sound more experienced than a player who relies only on scale shapes. Okay, so how to practice this? 1, look at the YouTube video. Remember, this is the audio podcast. This is more of the talking, and the lesson is over on the YouTube page, the Play Guitar Academy channel. Let's do single chord loops. This is called a vamp. What I just did is a vamp. Playing over one chord. Think about what happens. You go to YouTube, you get a backing track, and you say, oh, let's do it in the key of A, right? And it goes. It's going through chords like crazy, right? Because that sounds cool. But the problem is it doesn't give you time to know what you're doing over any one of them. By the time you start to realize, oh, this is an A chord, it's already changed and it's gone on to another one. So all you're doing is playing catch up all the time. Oh, it was D. Well, oh, D sharp diminished. Oh, back to A to E. Maybe a B minor. Oh, yeah, 2, 5, 1, and up. It's over, right? So you're always behind. If you start practicing one chord at a time and start to figure out which notes in your scale are strong, or you start to figure out which notes are strong and which notes are weak, then you can put on a loop of just that chord at the A7, play small phrases at the end of those phrases. It's a best way to get started. Play the root, or play the 3rd, play the 5th, or play the 7th. Don't try to be fancy. Just get used to hearing how each one feels. All these people playing solos and they don't know how to end their phrases. It's like you're not communicating a language correctly, right? Then, only then, after you're very happy with how you're playing over the one chord, start to add another chord. Maybe add the 4 chord next, going back and forth between the 1 chord and the 4 chord. There's 2 things you're doing. Playing over the chord one while it's there, That's one thing. But transitioning between the chords, that's another. We're going to be talking about that a lot this year. Then you can add the 5 chord, have 3. And each time the chord changes, you have to shift your strong notes. This single exercise is going to transform how you hear the blues and everything else that you're going to play. You can do targeting drills. You could pick one note to target for an entire minute. Just as you're jamming, okay, I'm going to play whatever I want, but every once in a while, I'm going to hit this one note in different places. You can target the 3rd of each chord. No matter where you start a phrase, if you end on the 3rd, you're going to get used to that sound. Then try the 5th for another minute. You're going to get used to that sound. Then switch to the root. You're going to build accuracy. You're going to build intention. You're going to learn how each chord tone pulls you in a different way into the harmony of the chord progression. Once you get the feel of targeting, move to real playing now. Use fewer notes when you're playing. On purpose, leave space, and let each phrase end with a clear landing point. I mean, what's better? Playing something simple that actually says something, or playing 10 million notes that don't say anything, right? You're going to notice your lines start connecting. Simple ideas are going to begin to sound musical instead of random, and then you can build from there something strong. If you felt stuck, this is the easiest way to break out of it. Okay, it's great to be back. I was under the weather for a few weeks at the end of the year, and I'm happy to be back hanging out with you. And if this clicked with you and you want to get control of your blues solos, I have a course for you. It's called Blues Solo Breakthrough. It's an email course. It walks you through the exact steps I teach players to help target strong notes and play with confidence and learn the things that you need to know to play blues. And you can get it in the link in this description. It's over at bluessolobreakthrough.com. And I look forward to seeing you over on the lesson video over on YouTube. Okay? Thanks for listening, everybody. Keep practicing. Drive safe. Stay positive. And I'll see you in the next video.